I believe that the only way humans assimilate truly disruptive information is through narrative. Whether it's the narrative they tell themselves, whether it's the narrative they're told about the world, we interact with things and our brains are wired for narrative. Mm-hmm. So if we know that your zip code impacts how you grow up, your parents impact how you grow up, and your friends impact how you grow up based on what the culture is, what's cool, what's popular, I can't impact where you grow up, I can't impact who your parents are, but I can impact the things your friends think about based on what's going on in the cultural subconscious. But the only way I can do that is through story. So that, and you combine it with like, what am I good at? What am I drawn to? What am I deeply passionate about? Storytelling anyway. So it just all came together when I really thought about what might work at scale. What do I want to be doing with my life? It came down to telling real stories. And so a lot of people are surprised that the way that we see ourselves here at Impact Theory is not the way that the outside world sees us. So the outside world sees us as being social content, and that's it. We see ourselves as twofold. We do the social, what we call nonfiction content, but we do fiction content. So we just released our first comic book, which we hope to translate into film or TV, and we hope to do that over and over and over until we're playing at Disney level. So the 10-year plan is going to be to get things into production, have multiple projects that end up on screens with big budgets that people love, and it starts to become part of the dialogue. I've always thought in 70 years, I guess, more than 100. I don't know why, just it seems more plausible. Even though I'm fully aware things will change so much, I can't possibly predict out that far. But it just gives you something to aim at.
I mean, Disney, that's not a 10-year thing. You can't build Disney in 10 years.
No way. And so it just gets me thinking really long term. So consistency of brand, making sure that we're only telling one kind of story, but telling it from 1,000 different angles, making sure that it's entertaining first, that it never feels preachy, that a kid would want to watch it, that parents want to watch it, that we serve both adults and kids. So it's like all these things, and the reason that I want to serve both adults and kids is, first, kids start by worshiping their parents. So I want to make sure their parents think we're cool, so that their parents are happy to show their kids the Impact Theory stuff, and then the kids have their own version of it that they can interact with, and then hopefully the kids will then grow up and introduce their kids. And I've always thought about it as a generational thing. I think once that generation that grew up on Impact Theory has kids, that's when we'll really start to see impact.
I love that, man. I love the mission too, and I love the implementation of that, because the bottom line is, like, this content is super helpful, but like you're saying, what's some kid in the inner city, are they really going to tune in and start digesting all of this entrepreneurial, motivational type content? Probably not. They're focused on video games and comic books and movies and all those different things. So it's so cool that you're thinking that far and ahead to really start making a real impact on how culture tells the story. So I want to commend you for that. There are very few people that I know of that know how to articulate issues, problems, mindsets, different things that are really difficult to break down as well as you do. Do you feel like that's something that you've really worked on, or do you think it's just something that comes naturally to you? Is it from reading, personal development?
So one, I think that we all have an area where we get early wins. So I always got early wins with verbal things. So when I put a unit of energy into something verbal and the person next to me put that same unit of energy, I would get maybe 1.2 or 1.3 the return. And so I just found myself, whoa, like I'm pulling ahead. And that was very useful, and I'm very grateful for that. But the number of hours that I've put into getting good are extraordinary. And so it pisses me off, like if people just think that I'm naturally talented and they don't think about the number of hours that I spent at 14 holding a hairbrush and standing in front of the mirror practicing my stand-up comedy routines, or then doing stand-up comedy all through high school, literally 5 days a week at my lunch table. I would hold an impromptu comedy routine for 55 minutes for the lunch period. And I would do that every day for 4 years. So you can imagine, like, even just adding up those hours, like the ridiculous number of hours that is. And then I was in speech and debate and did every speaking competition that you can do. And so I really poured myself into it for multiple decades. So at this point, I've got to have close to 30,000 hours of either speaking or practicing speaking.
So on that same vein, kind of preparing for this, I listen to a lot of your stuff in general, just to improve my own abilities and all this kind of stuff. You, Jordan Harbinger, a couple others are just like the go-to for me. And I coach people too on podcasting and interviewing and stuff like that. And I always tell them, just binge listen Tom Bilyeu, binge listen Jordan Harbinger, and get back to me a little bit.
Jordan is the man. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's actually the one who made this happen. So thank you, Jordan, for the intro. So here's a couple of quotes that are your quotes that I pulled from a few of your previous interviews, talks, episodes. So I've never done this before, but I want to try it out if that's cool with you. I'm going to say a quote that you have said, and I want you just to give me like a quick deep dive into that quote.
Sure.
Cool. So first one, there is no greater revenge than unmitigated success.
So that's actually a quote. I think that's Frank Sinatra, if I remember right. And one, I think that people really have to understand that you're only going to get so far with beauty. You're only going to get so far with love, and I'll call it 80%. You're going to get 80% of the way there. Mm-hmm. And the vast majority of the time, that's where you should be. But there's something built into us where you need the dark side. You need the rage, the anger to propel you forward in acute moments. I don't think you ever want to stay there for long. Mm-hmm. And they've shown this scientifically. If you take somebody and have them submerge their arm in an ice bucket and have 30 people do it, whatever, you'll get a median amount of time that people can leave it in. If right when they're about to pull it out, you tell them, don't take it out, get angry. You can yell, cuss, do anything you want. Just express rage. They can leave it in 30% longer.
Wow.
So our ability to endure pain is increased by the amount that we're able to harness the anger, the aggression. And I find that people either don't know how to be aggressive, they don't know how to channel that rage, that anger, or it's all they do. Both are problematic. Yeah. If your only tool is rage and anger, you'll self-destruct, you'll burn out, you'll alienate everybody. If, on the other hand, you hold it, you reserve it for those key moments, you endure what you can endure, but right before you give in, instead of giving in, you go farther than anybody else because you know how to harness that stuff. So there are definitely times that I think about where I'm just fucking exhausted, man, to my core, like to the marrow of my bones. I cannot go any farther.
Yeah.
And in those moments, I think of the people that I know want me to fail. I think of the people that sincerely believe I'm going to fail and that they will do anything they can to trip me up. I think of people that told me, dude, it's too late. You're never going to make it. I actually have a list. And I know who the people are. I'm thinking of them right now. And in those moments, I won't give them the satisfaction. And I am going to be successful and then not say a fucking word about it. And just let the success speak for itself. But I've got to tell you, there have been times, part of the reason that I've been as successful as I have is in those moments where I'm just as tired as anybody else, or I want to go to the party like everybody else. I don't, because of the darkness, not because I'm thinking, oh my God, I really want to help people.
Right.
That's where I spend 80% of my time. But homie, there is 20% of the time it's nothing but rage.
Love it, love it. All right, next one. You talk a lot about doing all the hard things and stuff like that. So actually, I'm gonna save that one for a second. I like this one. It is impossible to see the world as it is. We kind of touched on this a little bit talking about perspective, but can you kind of go into that a little bit further?
Yeah, you really can't. So there are regions of your brain that are designed to color your perception of the event. So there's a part of your brain called the deep limbic system. Its job is to apply emotion. So, hey, there was a stimulus. Was the stimulus good or bad? And there's a famous Shakespeare quote, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So we all have this stimulus, which is completely neutral. Genocide is neutral, right? We say it's horrible, and rightly so. But we have to understand that we're doing that with everything. We're doing that with I stubbed my toe, and it has meaning. We do it with I failed that test, and that has meaning. And because the meaning part is completely subjective, and we begin to lose sight of what's real. It completely fluctuates based on our mood, how much sleep we got, what we ate. All of these things are going to influence how you feel about an otherwise neutral stimulus. And lest people think that I'm overstating that genocide is in and of itself neutral, Viktor Frankl, who was in, I think, 5 concentration camps and managed to survive, said between stimulus and response is a gap. And in that gap We decide how to react. And he said, people in concentration camps, you could tell within 72 hours who was going to live and who was going to die. Because once somebody gave up and they no longer had meaning, he said 72 hours later they were going to be dead. Because in that gap, if you're not doing something useful, if you're not empowering yourself, believing something regardless of whether or not it's actually true or accurate, just I choose to believe. Like if I remember right, he just kept thinking about his family. I'm doing this for my family. I'm going to get out and do something wonderful for my family. I'm fighting for my family. I'm going to make through this for my family. And that thing filled him with what he needed to fight through 5 concentration camps and make it out the other side. And the book, Man's Search for Meaning, is extraordinary. And I think really has to be read. And so when you understand that even in that situation, somebody's saying, no, you still have the ability to choose how you respond. Meaning you can change that frame of reference. That's when I was like, yeah, I'm going to stop worrying about what is accurate, and I'm just going to worry about what's empowering.
That's so fantastic. Last one, here we go. There's always room for the best.
Yeah, I live by this, and I think that people need to understand you are where you are in your life right now because of your skill set. So if you're not where you want to be, you don't have the skill set you need. You're just not good enough. And a lot of people can't handle that because they think it means you're just not good enough, period, forever. You will never be good enough.
Right.
You are less than. That's not what it means. It means that your skill set is less than. You're not good enough yet. You can apply yourself. I mean, you said it earlier, humans are the ultimate adaptation machine. It is what we are literally, genetically designed to do is adapt. That's why the human animal is the ultimate apex predator. We just adapt, man. We can adapt mentally, we can adapt physically. It is crazy the level to which we can adapt our bodies and our minds. And if you think that, oh, I'm this ultimate adaptation machine, but who I am now is who all I will ever be, it's like you're missing out on the precise thing that makes humans extraordinary. So I always tell people, look, just assume you're average. Assume you were born hopelessly average. You can improve. And even if you want to think that you're like way below average, fine. You are where you are, but you can still improve. Right. So wherever you are, there is a massive amount of improvement that can be done. And when you hear stuff like Richard Branson has like a 92 IQ or something, it's like literally just above like special needs.
Really?
And he's like, well, it hasn't held me back. Because he built a frame of reference that became very powerful. And so that's what I want people to focus on. Don't worry about who you are today. Who do you want to become? And what price are you willing to pay to get there? Because it will demand an extraordinary price.
Is the environment you're in going to help you grow to the person that you say you want to be?